Did you like know exactly the character and like how to portray him, or did you kind of just like fall into it?
I kind of, well, they certainly, I mean, the Fairleys wrote a really, pretty great sketch of it. But to their credit, they kept saying, and I can pimp them now because it worked, but they would say, how about if you say it worked, but they would say, how about if you say this? And it would be, I'd say, let me try something. And because they'd sort of throw one up there on the wall. They were throwing spaghetti on the wall all the time.
Yeah.
But it made you always think more like, okay, it's the opposite of improv, but yes. And yeah, that idea, but something. So it made it just really fun.
Yeah.
But it made you always think more like, okay, no. And it just kept getting better. And the more they said, they would suggest.
The stadium was loud that night. 70,000 people screaming, cameras flashing, helmets crashing together under the bright Kansas City lights. But standing on the sideline, something about Travis Kelce felt different. Not weaker, not slower, just quieter, and strangely thoughtful. The scoreboard glowed above the field while the Kansas City Chiefs offense prepared for the next snap. Normally, Kelce would be laughing with teammates, joking with the offensive line, or signaling plays with a confident energy that made him one of the most dominant tight ends in football history. But this time, his eyes drifted upward, not to the scoreboard, not to the field, but to a private suite high above the stadium. And inside that suite sat Taylor Swift. She was surrounded by friends, family, cameras, and thousands of watching fans. But in that moment, the noise disappeared. Kelce stared for half a second longer than usual. Then he looked back toward the field. No one watching on television noticed. No commentator mentioned it. But later, fans would discover something strange. Something hidden. An Easter egg. A clue so subtle that it would take weeks for the internet to connect it. And when they did, it sparked one of the biggest questions in sports and pop culture. Was Taylor Swift secretly part of the biggest decision of Travis Kelce's career? And even more shocking, did she leave a hidden message about his retirement before anyone else knew? Because what happened next changed everything. In the world of professional sports, retirement decisions are rarely simple. For elite athletes, walking away isn't just about age. It's about identity, legacy, and the terrifying question that every competitor eventually faces. Who am I when the game ends? For more than a decade, Travis Kelce wasn't just a football player. He was a phenomenon. A record-breaking tight end who redefined his position. A charismatic personality who turned touchdowns into celebrations. And a key weapon for Patrick Mahomes, forming one of the most dangerous offensive duos the league had ever seen. Together with the Kansas City Chiefs, they won championships, broke records, created moments that fans would replay for decades. But while football fans were watching Kelce dominate defenses, something else was quietly unfolding off the field. A relationship that would turn the sports world and the music world into one giant spotlight. When Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce first appeared publicly together, it felt almost surreal. Two megastars, two completely different worlds. One from stadium concerts, the other from stadium football games. But what began as a curiosity quickly became something much bigger. Suddenly, every game had new viewers. Every sideline camera looked toward the luxury suites, and millions of Swift fans began learning football terminology overnight. But behind the headlines, behind the memes, behind the viral moments, something deeper was happening inside Travis Kelce's mind. Something that few people understood. Because when an athlete reaches the peak of their career, the next decision becomes the hardest one of all. And according to fans who analyzed every detail, Taylor Swift may have quietly influenced that moment in a way no one expected. Not through public statements, not through interviews, but through something far more subtle. An Easter egg, a hidden message, a clue buried in plain sight. But to understand how that moment happened, we need to go back. Back before the cameras. Back before the headlines. Back to the moment when Travis Kelce began asking himself a question that every great athlete eventually faces. How long can I keep doing this? By the time he reached his mid-30s, Travis Kelce had already accomplished what most NFL players could only dream about. Multiple Super Bowl victories, record-breaking receiving seasons, and a reputation as possibly the greatest tight end of his generation. But football is brutal. Every snap is a collision. Every season is a war against time. And even the best athletes feel the toll. By the 2024 season, something subtle had begun to change. Not in Kelce's talent, not in his leadership, but in the rhythm of his life. For more than a decade, his routine had been the same. Film study, practice, games, recovery, repeat. But suddenly, there was another world pulling at his attention. A world of music tours, global fame, and stadium crowds that looked very different from football fans. The world of Taylor Swift. Their relationship wasn't just another celebrity story. It became one of the most talked about cultural moments of the decade. Sports networks discussed it, entertainment shows analyzed it, and social media exploded with every new appearance. But something surprising happened inside the Chiefs' locker room. Instead of becoming a distraction, it became motivation. Teammates noticed Kelce seemed energized, happy, more balanced. For the first time in years, football wasn't the only thing defining his identity. But that change also brought a new perspective. Because when your life expands beyond the game, you begin to see the end of the game differently. And slowly, quietly, Kelce began thinking about something he had avoided for years. Retirement. Not immediately, not tomorrow, but eventually. Because the truth every athlete knows, but rarely says out loud, is this. Football careers don't last forever. And sometimes, the hardest decision isn't when you can no longer play. It's when you realize you might not need to anymore. The moment came during an ordinary interview. No big announcement. No dramatic confession. Just a simple question from a reporter. How much longer do you think you'll keep playing? Kelce laughed at first. That familiar confident laugh fans knew so well. But then he paused. Just for a second. And that pause was enough. Because great athletes rarely hesitate when talking about competition. But this time, he did. And in that pause, something changed. Later, when fans replayed the interview online, they noticed something unusual. Kelce mentioned something he had never talked about before. Balance, life outside football, and the importance of relationships. He didn't say Taylor Swift's name, but everyone knew who he was talking about. And from that moment forward, the retirement rumors began. At first they were whispers, then speculation, then full-blown debates across sports shows and social media. Was Kelce preparing to walk away? Or was he simply reflecting on the future like any veteran player? No one knew for sure. But what no one expected was that a tiny detail connected to Taylor Swift would soon send the internet into detective mode. Because somewhere in the middle of her music, her performances, and her famously clever storytelling, fans believed they had discovered something. A hidden clue, an Easter egg. And if they were right, Taylor Swift might have hinted at Travis Kelce's future before he even announced it himself. And when fans finally noticed it, the theory spread across the internet like wildfire. But the real story, the one that almost no one saw coming, was about to unfold. Because behind the music, the fame, and the football, a quiet conversation between two people was happening. A conversation about life after the spotlight. And what Travis Kelce decided next would surprise everyone.